In a recent HBO segment, comedian John Oliver takes on the Sackler family and their company Purdue Pharma, the makers of OxyContin.
Purdue famously aggressively marketed OxyContin to doctors as a less addictive painkiller that could be used to treat common conditions like backaches and knee pain, which was obviously untrue.
The Sacklers have rarely spoken publicly about this addictive painkiller, so Oliver brought on actor Michael Keaton to play Richard Sackler.
A news article about OxyContin addiction says it's caused 59 deaths in a single state. How do you respond?
That's not too bad. It could have been far worse.
In 2001, the opioid crisis was escalating. Richard Sackler wrote an email urging Purdue Pharma staffers to blame the people who were addicted.
Michael Keaton, what did he actually write?
We have to hammer on the abusers in every way possible. They are the culprits and the problem. They are reckless criminals.
Sackler genuinely wrote that.
It's time, Guggenheim, to take down the man.
Outraged by the family's actions, activists took to the Guggenheim in New York to demand the museum cut ties with the Sackler family.
400,000 dead.
In response to public pressure, museums like the Guggenheim have begun to cut ties. The National Portrait Gallery in the UK canceled a $1.3 million donation from the Sackler family.
And I think the Sackler family cares about that.
Keith Humphreys researches addiction at Stanford University.
They are so insistent on putting their name on all their philanthropic donations, says to me they really want to be known as patrons of the arts, not as the people who brought us the worst drug epidemic of the last 100 years.
Humphreys says the Sacklers used their social clout to convince regulators, medical schools, and doctors that OxyContin was not addictive. He says rejecting their donations sends a powerful message.
Rich people aren't like you and me. They care a lot about being able to go to dinner parties in fancy places and not be cursed under people's breath. So that elite rejection by museums, and I suspect some universities are going to start rejecting them as well, may motivate them to change, not out of any goodness of their heart, but because they care about that very deeply, maybe more than they care about just the money.
This is not the first time institutions have grappled with accepting donations from the contentious elite.
Big philanthropy is inherently a problem for democracy.
Benjamin Soskis, a historian with the Center on Nonprofits and Philanthropy at the Urban Institute, says this debate really came to a head during the Gilded Age. This was after the Civil War, when oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller became America's first billionaire. Andrew Carnegie was another robber baron. He made a fortune off of steel and ruthlessly broke up unions.
The massive fortunes of the industrial age confronted the public with a real quandary. What do you do if you are asked to accept public donations that are really attractive, that could do good, but that seem to connote a sort of endorsement of the modes of accumulation?
Some communities refused Carnegie's money, saying the libraries he wanted to build were like monuments to exploitation. In 1905, Rockefeller donated $100,000 to Congregationalist Missionary Society. Soskis says this sparked widespread debate about whether accepting this money would amount to endorsing a merciless oil monopoly.
And that's when the phrase tainted money really became most prominent. Half the nation thought it was cool for the Congregationalists to accept the money, and half thought it was completely immoral.
During the 19th century, it was easy to point to millionaires and philanthropists like Rockefeller and Carnegie as examples of corporate greed. Now the Sacklers have come to represent a similar ethos. But Andy Chambers, an addiction psychiatrist with the Indiana University School of Medicine, says focusing on individuals like the Sacklers is missing the bigger picture.
What's going on in our healthcare system that doctors are so poorly trained that they, instead of listening to what they were taught in med school, they listen to drug companies? What's going on with that?
Now we're in what some people call the second Gilded Age, where a small number of people, yet again, own a huge chunk of the nation's wealth. And many of these very rich individuals are looking to make big donations. Chambers says addiction research might be a good place to start.
There is an incredible lack of philanthropic interest and support for addiction diseases.
But when it comes to fighting addiction, there's not usually a prestigious museum wall for billionaires to stamp their names on. For Philosophy Talk, I'm Holly J. McTeed.